Thankfully, this hasn't happened very consistently, and it hasn't happened in a very long time. But I do have to start off this episode by telling you that we did lose a little bit of progress, or I should say, some progress isn't going to be a part of this video. We left this series in the last episode on January 11th after this loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, what I decided to do was to keep this team together in one last ditch attempt to see if we could avoid having to finally admit defeat. Because again, I've talked about it so many times what our goal was for this series and how desperately I wanted to keep this team together and to win with this team. So we didn't end up making any moves at that point. You get a look at what happened in January, and we are now, just at the beginning of February. We missed the one game against the Sens that was actually a win. But like I mentioned, it's been a very long time since that's happened. I don't know what happened, but thankfully I was able to catch the issue in progress before we lost an entire episode worth of progress. But as it stands right now, it is February 3rd. We have a 23-20-7 record, which, of course, isn't exactly ideal. Now, we do have 4 games at hand on the Sabres, who are in a wildcard spot, and they're only 3 points ahead of us. So we are very much in the playoff mix. However, this isn't what we wanted. The plan wasn't to have to battle it out to be a playoff team. We wanted to be maybe not as good as Tampa, but we wanted to be up there in terms of battling for a division title, not battling for a wild card spot. I did change Charlie Hudon back to a playmaker. I changed AJ Greer to a grinder. We were trying a couple of different things to try and get this team going. As it stands, Charlie Hudon still just 1 goal, 17 points in total. Philip Deneau is still doing all right. I mean, I'll defend him vehemently. I love him as a third-line center. And Artturi Lehkonen only has 15 points. So the same players that were struggling before are still the ones that are struggling now. And it's such a frustrating situation. Now, what this episode originally was going to be was, again, this strategy of keeping the team together, going towards the trade deadline, and then if we had to make moves at that point, we would. And that's still pretty much going to be the plan. I'm not sure if this is going to be the longest episode. And again, with my series, the videos are typically half an hour to 45 minutes or so. And I don't think we're going to hit that mark. Of course, as I'm speaking right now, you would have seen how long the episode is. It really depends on whether or not we can turn it around. And at the time that, how do I want to phrase this? Once we get to the trade deadline, at that time, we need to decide what we're going to do. If we're going to give it one last attempt to make the playoffs, or if we're going to give up. And giving up could mean a variety of different things. Giving up could mean a retooling. It could mean rebuilding. It could mean scorched earth. And again, there's so many different options. And when you talk about some of the younger players we have on this team, if we go for a rebuild, we don't necessarily have to get rid of Alex Galchenyuk, Jonathan Drouin, and Jesse Puljujarvi. We don't have to do that because they're young enough that they could still be a part of the core moving forward. Even Charlie Coyle and Gallagher could hang around. I mean, Hudon, Scherbak, and Lehkonen, they've been extremely disappointing, so maybe we'd, get rid of them. Philip Deneau, I want him to be a Hab until he retires. He is like my perfect third-line center. It's incredible. So there's so many different options, and I'm talking about, expiring deals with Charlie Coyle. It's such a rough spot to be in. And again, I've stated numerous times, the goal was to win with this team. If I start the rebuild now, people are going to be like, well, what the hell was the point? You should have just traded Weber 2 seasons ago and shit like that. But the point was, I wanted to stay as true to the Habs as I could. The Habs as we currently know them in 2017. And I, of course, talked about in a previous episode just how few moves we've really made involving the core. What I'm going to do at the moment, is we are actually going, I need to go back into the edit lines again. We are actually going to sim a little bit further, and we're going to see if this team can find a way to win some games. Now, we're going to start off with a little bit of a different move here. It's really tough. It's really tough to try and decide how to approach this. Because I was thinking of changing up the lines a little bit, but of course that's risky. I don't necessarily want to pull Max Pacioretty off of the top line. That would be pretty stupid. The third line's good as far as gelling well together, so it's tough because you look at the line combinations and it's like, well, what can you really do at this point? We have the team set up the way we would prefer to have them set up, and it just hasn't worked at all. I think the only thing I'm going to look to do... I can't, man. I can't. Even changing up the top six, it should be fine the way it is. I guess the only thing we can do is sit back and see if the sim engine's kind to us. See if we can magically find a way to start winning games. Maybe change up who plays where on what line. And we're going to go for it. And we're going to go for it, and we're going to see what happens. Now, I would typically say we have to decisively be outside of the playoff structure, but given this team and given where this team should be, barely being outside the playoffs, that's still a good indication that maybe it's time to blow it up, as this is taking forever to sim. I'm trying to remember. I think I set up the trade block. If I'm not mistaken, I set up the trade block, and that is going to cause issues. No, it was a waiver claim. Oesterle, 2 years left on his deal. No, thank you. Let's just make sure that the block is cleared out, because I don't want this to take forever like it currently is, because that would be a little bit of a problem. As it is, because of the cap involved in some of these contracts with some of these players, I don't think I'd necessarily be able to rely on the game to come to me with contract offers. If we're making trades, this is the type of situation where I need to be hands-on and I need to find the right pieces at the right time. I must have the trade block set up. Otherwise, this game is freaking me out a little bit with these load times. But we'll see what happens. Maybe the game will crash. If it does, I'm leaving this entire thing and this entire video so far. It'll be the same. I'll even include me reloading the game back up, because Lord knows I've said enough in this episode already that I would never be able to repeat it properly. Okay, EA, what the hell's going on here? Like, what is going on here? Am I stuck in a loading screen kind of deal? Like, what is happening? This is really weird, kind of frustrating. Like, do I just stop talking and make a jump cut once it's done loading? Or do I kind of showcase how ridiculous this is being at this point in time? What the hell do I do? I don't even know. So how are you guys? Because apparently we're going to be here for a while. This is looking at the same screen daily. Your new favorite talk show. Sponsored by Arnold Palmer, hopefully. Well, we did get a trade offer. Wesley, an AHL player. Get out of here. No, let me double check. Yeah, okay. I do have the trade block set up. Let's just clear that out. Let's just clear that out. I mean, especially too, if those are going to be the load times once I start getting offers. No, we will handle it on our own. Let's just make some progress here. See if we can win some games consistently. Right now we are trading wins and losses. That's now 2 straight losses. We beat Calgary. We lost to Boston. We are so inconsistent. We'll sim another week. It's a day-by-day basis right now. Like, we are literally taking the future of this franchise in our current direction. It changes day by day. And that's not the way it should be. The good thing is we're moving on to North American Scouting. Hooray! Let's take a look. A big loss against Buffalo. That's now 3 straight losses. We snap that losing streak against Winnipeg and then lose to Florida. 26, 26, and 7. And I think you guys know where we are headed right about now. Yeah, we're 10 points back. We're 10 points back of Buffalo. The win-loss, 3 straight losses. I think it's done. I mean, we do have 3 games at hand on Buffalo. So, we could make up some points, but even then we're still going to be too far back. It's over. Like this team, it's over. It's done. I mean, we've tried so many different things. The second line's been different this year. You add Puljujärvi, you add Charlie Coyle. We get rid of John Tavares to try and free up cap space to make this team better all around. And we definitely did that defensively. Derek Forbort's pissed off. I don't blame him. He's pissed off about the ice time, which is understandable. I think it's over, guys. The dream of winning with this core, I'm calling it right now. It's done. Not the series, of course. But we were so close. Game 7 against Chicago. It was right there. And I want to say, too, I know a lot of people thought this series would be me just as a Bruins fan, taking pot shots at the Habs the whole time. If there's one thing I hate more than Montreal, it's losing. So even if I'm losing with Montreal, it's frustrating. And if you've watched one of my series, you know I like to win cups. I like to be successful. This is frustrating. And we have to figure out just what exactly we want to do. We need to figure out just how over the top we want to be with this retooling, this rebuild, this scorched earth approach. And I mean, you can literally talk about every player. For example, Carey Price. He's 32 years old. He can fetch us an amazing return. You also have to keep in mind, though, it's really dangerous to trade for draft picks right now. The best thing to do right now is to trade players that are on expiring deals, and then big moves will take place in the offseason. So, if we were to decide, okay, we're trading Carey Price, we're not going to do so until the offseason. At the draft, the draft will be the soonest date that we do that. And needless to say, we could use Carey Price to really kickstart that rebuild. Ryan Miller, I mean, we signed him for this year. We could easily flip him. We can call up Zachary Fucale to be the backup. He is already a backup goalie, so we could see what we could get for Ryan Miller. So that's pretty much the only thing. The only move we'd make goaltending-wise right now before the deadline would be trading away Ryan Miller. And then we'd have McNiven and Hallinan as our 2 goaltenders. Defensively, I mean, we might as well break this down section by section here. Again, let me know what you think. We get rid of Ryan Miller, right? That's an easy enough decision. Shea Weber, again, we'll look at it in the offseason. Jeff Petrie, we'll look in the offseason. Darnell Nurse, 25 years old. He's a top 4 defenseman. Young enough that he could still be a big part of this team whenever we turn the page again and start becoming start getting back into that cup contention mode. It's going to take a few seasons, you would assume. What do we do with Darnell Nurse? Do we trade him? Or do we hold on to him and have him be a crucial member of our defense? Now, again, he would be in the same role. Nurse and Dumba, it's the same question. Both of these guys could be, that could be our second pairing for the next 8 years. The question would be, what do we do as, for a top pairing? And that's where the rebuild kicks in. Derek Forbort, young enough to be a part of the future, but, obviously, ideally, he'd be a third pairing guy. I think there are ways I could keep Derek Forbort happy. Giving him more penalty kill time or whatever, which he might already have. But he is on an expiring contract. So, with Nurse, who has an expiring deal, And with Derek Forbort, what do we do? Do we get rid of both of them? Do we keep both of them? And see if we can have Forbort be happy on the third pairing. Now the question is, I mean, he does have PK time, and he's not currently happy, so I think more than likely for him, we're going to have to find somebody else, which is a shame. I mean, he is a really solid defensive D-man. But let me know what you think in regards to Darnell Nurse and Derek Forbort. And like I said, Weber, Petrie, Dumba, we'll figure that out in the future. Will Butcher, I mean, he's here for 3 more years if we decide that's how long he should be here for, but we don't have to look at trading him right now. We'll explore every possible avenue in the offseason. So right now, Nurse and Forbort are the 2 that we really have to decide on. Max Pacioretty, we'll decide later. Drouin, we'll decide later. Alex Galchenyuk, he's now 26 years old. I mean, he is a top-line guy. He is young enough to be a part of this team. I think in an ideal scenario, a couple of years from now when we're contenders, he's our second-line center, and we find somebody else who's good enough to fill that role. But he is a UFA, so if we decide to get rid of him, now's the time. So what do we do with Alex Galchenyuk? Do we keep him? Is he a part of this team? Brendan Gallagher, we can decide later. Charlie Coyle, 27 years old, young enough to be a part of this team moving forward, but also he's a UFA. So we could get rid of him now. We could keep him. Ideally, he'd be a third-line player. I just don't know if we'd be able to keep him happy in a third-line role. But you have to admit, a third line with Philip Deneau and Charlie Coyle, that's a damn good start, depending on who that third player is. So let me know what you think, and in regards to Charlie Coyle and what we should do with him. Puljujärvi stays, no doubt. Artturi Lekkonen's gone. I mean, what else are we supposed to do? What else are we supposed to do? You could say, oh, well, he's on the third line. How could you expect him to produce? 35 points, 36 points. He has 17 points this year. We've tried him on the second line. We tried him on the second line last year. Am I not mistaken? Like, we've given him a chance. I mean, if we get rid of Charlie Coyle, then I suppose we could keep Lekkonen and bump him up. Charlie Hudon, I mean, again, good as a two-way player, but still 19 points. He had 35 points in year 1. Well, actually, he had 35 points in year 2. Actually, no, wait, that would be year 1. That's right. 2017, 2018 is year 1, technically, in this game. Year 2, 24 points, only 4 goals. This year, again, like, what happened to his goal scoring? 19 goals. He has 6 ever since. What happened? Where did it go wrong? We've had him as a sniper, a playmaker, a two-way, and we just can't get him going. I want Hudon and Lekkonen to be a part of this team, but they're both UFAs, or at the very least RFAs, I believe. No, I think both are UFAs at this point. In the upcoming offseason, now's the time to get rid of them, or we give them another chance and try to re-sign them. I look forward to your feedback on that. AJ Greer, good enough to stay here. I mean, we could get rid of him. He doesn't have much in the way of trade value, but he's been a decent fourth liner for us. I mean, more of an energy guy, good skater, physical player. Nikita Sherbak, same thing as Lekkonen and Hudon. Again, you can say, well, he's been on the fourth line. We've tried him elsewhere. I mean, these 3 guys right here in particular, we have given them so many opportunities. First line, second line, third line. Hasn't quite worked. And then Mike McCarron, fine again as a fourth liner. Absolutely fine with him being a fourth liner. So we have questions that we need to answer in the short term. What do we do with these players that are upcoming free agents? And then again, after that, once we miss out on the playoffs, the big decisions come in the offseason, where I will ask those questions later at that point in time. What do we do with those individual players? For now, just focus on the UFAs. Because right now, for example, trading Shea Weber, we'd probably have to rely on draft picks. It's so unpredictable with the way the lottery works now that it would just be better to wait to trade him at the draft. So, let me know what you guys think. Again, a bit of an unorthodox episode, and it's certainly going to be Shorter than you would expect. Of course, if you factor in the other month of simming, it would have been a bit longer, but tech issues, I don't even know how to explain what the hell happened, but it is what it is. Guys, the dream is over. We are giving up. The retooling, the rebuild, the scorched earth approach, depending on how we handle all of this, it truly begins in the next episode. Marc Bergevin, I mean, the internet told you so. And in the very least, in NHL 18, it didn't quite work out. So guys, I hope you did enjoy this somewhat abbreviated episode. The next one will be interesting, one way or another. Like I said, I look forward to reading your feedback in the comment section. For now, I'll say if you enjoyed, feel free to support the video in any way you deem necessary. Links are in the description. I love ya. Kind of, I mean, you know, just as friends. Like, don't be weird about it. Just stop. Don't be weird about it. See you guys in the next one. Don't be weird about it.